Up here with me?
Pharaoh.
Pharaoh was. We weren't seeing eye to eye. I was telling him to let the Israelite people go from Egypt. But what did he say?
No.
He said, no. I continued to ask him to let my people go, speaking for God. But he didn't want to listen. He got meaner and meaner. And he wouldn't let us go. So what happened? What did God do? Do you remember?
He did 10 plagues.
He did the plagues of Egypt. Caused many things bad to happen to only the Egyptians. The Israelite people weren't even touched. Even to the point of the very last thing that happened was the death of the firstborn. All throughout Egypt. But it was only the Egyptians. My people were spared. Because God was watching over us through the Passover. So you are remembering things. This is good. Very good. I'm so proud of each one of you. So then, you might wonder what had happened next. Well, that's why I'm here tonight, is to tell you in your story time what happened to me and the people of God when we exited Egypt. It wasn't easy. Sometimes we were very sad. But we knew that God was with us. And how did we know this? We followed him. He was in the form of a cloud during the day. And a giant pillar of fire at night. You could see it for miles. Made it very easy to follow. Well, as we exited from Egypt, Pharaoh decided he didn't want us to leave after all. That wasn't very nice, was it? He just told us we could leave. So he got into his chariots, grabbed all of his best warriors, and he chased after us as fast and as hard as he could ride until his horses were tired. But we had a head start. However, we did have one thing that made us become uneasy. And that was the Red Sea. It was standing in our way. The people came to me and said, Moses, why did you bring us out of Egypt? Can you think of why they said that? Because they thought they were going to die. They had forgotten that God brought them out of Egypt with all the power of the plagues. But now, they were scared. And God said to me, lift your staff out and touch the water, and the Red Sea will be parted. So I followed his command, and the sea opened. Both sides around us was water. Really high. And me and all the people of Israel walked out and stepped on dry land. God gave us a way out. They were being impatient. But God delivered us anyway. So we marched and we walked across that water. Pharaoh's men came rushing after us. And once we got to the other side, do you remember what happened to Pharaoh and his armies? He was still following behind us. The water came crashing down and wiped them all out. So we were free. But we still needed God. We still needed to know where to go because we had not been out of the land. We didn't know anything about that area. So again, we had to follow the fire and the cloud. Because following God meant the difference between living and dying. Well, guess what? The people They again were complaining, being impatient. This time, they were hungry. Have you ever been so hungry that your tummy hurt? And your tummy started growling, you just needed something to eat? Well, that's the way they felt. They wanted to eat, and they didn't know how they were going to get their next meal. So God told me to tell them that there will be food coming. I know you all go to the grocery store to get food, but they didn't have a grocery store. God sent the food from heaven, and it fell down to the ground. You can imagine that would be very different, because your mommies and daddies tell you don't eat food off the ground. But they had to eat the food that was off the ground. They had nothing else to eat, and it was clean because God gave it to them. He gave them bread to eat in the morning. And He gave them meat from the bird called a quail. Tasted like chicken. And they ate that, and they enjoyed it. But they had to collect it. We were told very specifically that we had to collect it on the 6th day, double. Because on the 7th day was the Lord's. To remind us that He was the one who brought us out of Egypt. And we were fed for 40 years. 40 years. We had chicken and bread. 40 years. And I can tell you this, I remember very well in the mornings. We would wake up and see almost like snow on the ground. It was white. Everywhere it was white. But it wasn't snow. It was bread. There was bread everywhere. Because there had to be enough to feed all of us. God was taking care of us. And we knew that He was going to take care of us. As long as we followed Him. But sometimes we have to have patience, don't we? And we're learning that through our Bible classes. All right, now we're going to do a visual demonstration. So if you would please stand up. And we're going to get dressed.